All right, Ultimate Hoops Nation, my name is Reid Nelson. This is Izzy Alcafas. This is This Week in Rec. We have just witnessed both Final Four games tonight. The Rebels will face off against the Nets in an old school rivalry dating back to Rebels Celtics. Actually, my first Ultimate Hoops memory before I even started here was Rebels Celtics, and we'll actually talk about that here in a little bit. So, first impressions tonight of the game between the Nets and the Lakers. It was never close. Talk about it.
It was a snoozer. The Lakers, all five guys looked like they rolled out of bed. Didn't even brush their teeth and just came onto the court. From the tip-off, the Nets wanted it. Marcus was unbelievable. He got any shot he wanted. He was on fire to start the game. I can't remember the first, maybe the first miss was late in the first half. He was just feeling it. He was pulling up in transition. It didn't matter. I heard he was sick, so he had the Jordan flu game, the Marshall flu game. Very impressive.
I heard him say a temperature of 105, which I don't believe, because 105 is hospitalized.
I think he was talking about his shot.
Okay. Well, I'm not a doctor, but I think if you have 105 temperature, you're in the hospital.
Yeah, 105. Isn't it like over 103? You gotta.
I think so.
Yeah. But
maybe that's just for babies. I don't know.
It's a better story. 105.
Let's say 110. Yeah, I mean, and the Lakers, they just didn't have that look in their eye. Yeah. And they got Ryan, and, Justin hadn't really been a factor for them all season, so I was very surprised to see that. What did you see specifically from the Lakers?
Well, it's a lack of effort. You can tell. I mean, energy is the Gorillas Rebels last week, that was a snoozer too, because it was bad energy coming from the Rebels, and that's what happened with the Lakers tonight. You look at the matchups from the tip, the matchups were just bad for the Lakers. They couldn't match up with the Nets. You had Ryan guarding Marcus. You had Noe guarding Mead. I mean, that was probably their best matchup because Mead isn't going to take advantage of that matchup. And then you have Garland matched up with, whether it's Tice, and then you have Ratty guarding Hamill, but Hamill was able to stretch the floor, and same thing with J-Sam. He was able to stretch the floor as well. So they had a mismatch in every position, which is surprising. I mean, the Nets will do that to you. They're really good, but the Lakers, when you get in the playoff format, and this is what we talked about, defense typically wins out. And the Lakers weren't a defensive team. So if they come out flat, they got to rely on making all their shots. But when the Nets play like that, it's tough to beat.
So let me ask you this, and I'll ask Jason Briggs this later tonight as well. The 2 seed fall to the 11 seed, not an upset. The 1 seed fall to the 12 seed, not an upset. Does the regular season even matter?
Well, no. I mean, it's a prep. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. If you make the playoffs, the Rebels won 3 seasons ago as the 16 seed after going 4-4. The Bulls South won as a 2 seed. I think they were the last best favorite to win. Fob won last season as a double-digit seed, and now we're going to have a double-digit seed win again. We talked about this. There's 14 teams that could have won this championship. So when I was talking about the Celtics not having championships, or they don't matter anymore, is because there was 3 teams that were winning. I mean, it was Turtles, Celtics, their first 2 championships. And then it was like, you had the in the Pups, and then you had the Pups and, Cobra Kai, I guess. Insert Rebels later. So they really only won 1 championship when the league was starting to blossom. And I would say there's about 5 or 6 teams that can compete back then when I first joined the league. Now there's 14 teams that can legitimately win it. So you need to have 4 good games. It isn't a walk to the Final Four and then you just got to win 2 games. So that's the difference. So if they win here, that's where they build the equity. I mean, they're back. They're feeling good. And for the Rebels, it's just kind of continuing to roll. They looked horrible at the beginning of the season. Horrible.
So Huskies start out with only 5 guys, and I mean they were getting beat around the court. I mean John Price, he's gonna need an ice bath tonight because Dustin was just. It's like a football game out there. So I got to ask this question. Antoine Lynch, and I'm not saying that I believe this. I'm just asking this. Back-to-back MVPs. He could win a 3rd MVP this season. I'm not saying he will. He could. Is he the most overrated player in Ultimate Hoops? He was a non-factor tonight, a non-factor.
With big men, you need your guards. So he can't go get the ball. He has to have somebody to give it to him. Noe got a little bit too dribbly tonight, I felt, especially when the game gets. Noe's a fierce competitor. One of the most. I can't think of anybody that's more competitive than Noe. He doesn't have any friends when he steps on the court, which is what you like about him. However, when your team gets down, he looks at the scoreboard, and it's up to Noe to bring your team back into it. Sometimes he can do it, sometimes he can't, but then you don't feed your bigs. So he didn't get the touches that he needed. They came out flat to begin with. He took a couple threes. If Twan gets fed and he gets the floor spaced for him, he's dominant because he can grab the zone misses, he can grab offensive rebounds, he'll do great. The problem is he struggles defensively. So when you're in a playoff setting, you need defense. Pick and rolls, he might struggle with sometimes, and you need to win 4 games, like we said, and all 4 of those games you have to have good, solid defense. And is he overrated? No, he's probably the most dominant player individually that you can have. Nobody can really guard him. But in a team setting, you can make that argument.
So, Nets Rebels tomorrow night. I'll tell you my story here. My first Ultimate Hoops game was in the fall of 2011. I believe it was the Final Four game between the Celtics and the Rebels. And I was obviously friends with Pat at the time, still am. But I came there and I had 2 lasting impressions from that game. Who is the guy with all the Celtics gear on who is just, I mean, he was like dancing after like made shots and just being outrageous. And then I thought that, and I've gotten to know him slightly since then, but I thought that Ryan Smolarek was the biggest jerk in the world. Nothing against you, Ryan, but that game, that first impression, it was like, oh my gosh, this guy is outrageous. He was just, now they won the game, and you could tell that they embraced that villain attitude. That was the last time those 2 teams played a significant playoff game, right? I want to say, we're talking over 2 years ago. I'm talking Rebels Celtics. I mean, because it's Bloomington Fridley.
Yeah.
So that's the last 2 times they faced off. We're talking over 2 years ago.
It was 9 seasons ago. This is the 10th season, so 2.5 years ago.
So, the rosters are a little different. How are things going to be different tomorrow night? And who do you think, or who do you have coming out on top?
Yeah, I almost don't want to pick this game, just because energy is going to be the determining factor in this game, because the offensive advantage is clearly with the Nets. The defensive advantage goes to the Rebels. Now, if the Nets buckle down and work really hard on defense and they stick together, they can't rely on what Marcus did tonight. Was an incredible individual performance.
Can't do that again.
He can. If anybody's gonna do it, it's Marcus.
Against Ryan, though?
Oh, against Jansen. I mean, yes, he'll make life difficult for him. The refs will be a very important key to this game, actually. It's almost like the refs might decide this game, because if they let them play, the Rebels will have a huge advantage, and if they call it tight, then the Nets have an advantage, because they like to attack a little bit more. So you look at the matchups, and you look at Ryan Samuelson against DuPont, and then you look at Jansen against Marcus. And I always say that you can't have a bad defensive game. You show up and you play hard, you can always defend. With offense, you can have a bad offensive game. So I think to put money somewhere, you got to put your money with the defense. Now, the size advantage, with Garland and J-Sam, if they utilize the size, that'll be very important for them, because then that means that the Rebels are going to have to double, and you can't double off of Ryan and Marcus. If you double off Ryan and Marcus, that's 3 points, 70% of the time. So if they can utilize their bigs and make sure their bigs kick it inside out, that's how the Nets have a chance to win this game. If they go perimeter focused, the Rebels will win. I'm not going to pick a winner just because it's just a crapshoot, and I don't want to give anybody extra edge. Here, we'll just let it play out. I have a team that I personally would rather see win, but what's nice about this is, for some of these old guys, is this is the changing of the guard has ended. It's back to the Rebel Celtics.
Back to the Rebel Celtics. There is no more new squad. So, a little bit of I don't know if I'd call it breaking news, but there's been some talk about what's going to happen here. What I'm about to announce: Bloomington is getting new floors. which means finally we will be transitioning to the college three-point line after a long time. So, I mean, I don't see why we wouldn't, now that both Fridley and Bloomington have it. You know, we're not in high school anymore. So
yeah, so we didn't do it in Fridley because we had to do it.
Yeah, because we had to do it in Bloomington too. So the question I have for you is, my theory is that scoring will actually go up because the game opens up slightly, the guards come out slightly, because you're not going to be floating around right inside the three-point line. So the big men will be more important. So you're back to the basket fives. Your Kevin Chases, your Ned Tischler will be more important. There'll be guys who can drive to the rim will be more important. And I think three-point shooting will actually go up percentage-wise because people aren't going to be just unloading on threes because it's a little bit further back. So you're going to have your Ryan Samuelson shooting and your Marcus is shooting, but I think three-point shooting, the numbers will go down, but the percentage will go up. Those are just my theories. So scoring, I think, will overall go up. I could be completely off base here.
Three-point shooters are three-point shooters. They'll just take a step back and just still fire them up. So I don't disagree with you. I think for some of these guys, naturally, a guy like Dustin DuPont, for instance, he's a better college shooter than he is it's just, for some people, they're more comfortable taking a step back. I don't think the percentage will change all that much. I don't think it'll get better or get worse. What you're saying about the court opening up, yes, especially with guys that are known to be good shooters, their teams are going to have a much better advantage because now you add another 1.5 feet of space, or a foot of space, which, like you said, forces the centers. Then you actually have to move and collapse a little bit higher, probably second hash from the free throw line, leaving the dump offs down low. So I can see that being a factor. But then again, you got a lot of dumb players out here, so I don't think. Who knows?
I think it's going to be great. I think it's long overdue. I mean, if you look at high school kids, they're very small. They're not as big as you would think, and we need to open things up a little bit. I think it's going to be good.
So when are we transitioning to the NBA threes? Because then we're talking about a whole.
Chicago does NBA threes, and it really is wide open then. So, okay, well, we're gonna bring Mr. Briggs on. Any final thoughts about tonight, tomorrow, or the off season?
I love you, Jay Moore.
Thank you, Izzy. All right, Ultimate Hoops Nation, I'm here with Jason Briggs, also in attendance for tonight's games. First game of the night, Lakers didn't really show up. Talk about the Nets' victory.
It was 100% effort. For 41, maybe 42 and a half minutes, the Nets tried unbelievably hard. Last minute and a half, they just coasted. I could have swore someone faked an injury to get Jay Moore a free throw. I could just be throwing that out there, but I'm pretty sure that happened. Lakers have advantages, and they used none of them, I would say would be accurate. Why are their big guys hanging out around the three-point line when there's not a single guy on that team that should be able to guard Twan and Ratty down low? And the fact that the offense was running through certain guards and not through Kyle Ratty in the post, I think cost them any chance to win.
Second game of the night also, I mean, a little closer, more effort from the Huskies, but they self-destruct in the second half. Talk about their loss to the Rebels.
They stayed with them longer than I thought they would, especially running Iron 5 for almost the entire first half. I don't think Mike showed up till actually halftime. Yep. Their issue is they were playing 3 games out there. One against the Rebels, one against each other, and one against the refs, and they lost all 3 tonight. Yeah,
they definitely give. They argue a lot, and then they let it get in their head, and the Rebels didn't. So, okay, old school matchup tomorrow night. Like Izzy said, it's kind of back to the old guard. Rebels versus Celtics Nets. Who do you got?
I got the Nets. I won't puss out on a prediction. The reason is just purely the size advantage. The Rebels don't use their bench enough to where Tyler and Luke will be enough of a factor out there in these matchups. If the Nets come out with the exact same lineup tonight to start, I'll even take Kyle away and put Ryan out there. So you got Dustin on Ryan. Who do you have guarding Marcus? It's got to be Jansen with that group, right? Okay, so then who has J-Sam? Who has Hamill? Who has Garland? Ferber can only guard one of them. So then you have Monska and Cody guarding a much larger guy. And I don't think the way the Rebels work on the offensive end, they'll be able to take advantage of this, maybe the speed advantage they have. I've never seen, well, at least not in a long time, the Nets play with this much intensity, so that was really nice to see. Rebels actually dogged it, I would say, for the beginning and end of the game. DuPont with some just careless passes. But again, they historically just try harder than everyone else. So if they put that blue collar attitude to full use, they can certainly win a close game. But I just think the size of the Nets is going to take over.
So you'd pick the Nets. Izzy abstains. I take in overtime.
Okay.
So I take that team in overtime. So I think it's going to be a great game. We talked earlier, what was the best game of the postseason? There's been a lot of snoozers.
It's been a pretty poor
It really
postseason.
has. So you said it, and I probably agree. Lakers, Tropics, Sweet 16 game.
For 43 minutes, it was a great game. Well, 42 and a half minutes, it was a great game.
And it's a little sad to think that that's been our best game so far.
Maybe Johnny Football Good Thumpers playing games, but because it went to OT.
Maybe.
There's been a lot of snoozers. A lot of games I thought would be good, and they just ended up not.
Well, let's hope that tomorrow night makes up for all of them. So
Let's hope so. Did you discuss the potential changes to that All-Star game?
for next season,
Yeah.
we're talking. Potentially going back to the Fridley versus Bloomington All-Star game. I think that's going to be in the works.
The open players, now I'm not an all-star, and the league would have to really take a dip for me to become one. But it doesn't seem like the open players, after losing so many seasons in a row, either care or really want to put themselves out there to embarrass themselves again. So we're going to have to go back to Bloomington versus Fridley.
Rumor has it they have 7 guys tomorrow. Rec only has 5.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not available. So
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yes.